the UFC last Saturday night. And an incredible fight with Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell and Vanderlei Silva both were basically needed this match. Vanderlei Silva lost 2 in a row. Chuck Liddell lost 2 this year against, Rampage and then Keith Jardine. And they really both needed this match. So they both came out with guns firing. Those guys did not want to go to the ground whatsoever. Those guys wanted to stand and battle with each other. And that's exactly what we saw. It was an incredible fight, even though it was a decision. I mean, you can't really say it's a bad thing to win a decision. It just shows that Vanderlei Silva is a tough fighter. Because he could have been... If Vanderlei Silva was an average human being, then Chuck Liddell would have knocked out Vanderlei Silva in the second round. Maybe even the first round. But no, he went the distance with Chuck Liddell, and that's something he should be proud of. And Vanderlei Silva, no matter, he's still a young guy. He's only 31 years old, and I thought he was an old geezer like Chuck Liddell, who's 38 years old. Vanderlei Silva is going to be a dominating force in the light heavyweight division for years to come. Another debut we had this year, we had Shogun. Shogun, who is considered the best light heavyweight in the world, made his UFC debut. He's the guy, the last guy to beat Rampage. And Forrest Griffin came out and demolished Shogun, changing the guard in the rankings in the world of the light heavyweight ranking division, as Shogun fell and now Rampage is #1. But this year, like I said, if you look back year 2007, you're going to say year of upsets, year of surprises, year of the emergence of new fighters in the UFC, changing the guard, if you will. But 2008, what do we look forward to in 2008? Well, we have a lightweight belt coming up. Lightweight battle between BJ Penn and Joe Stevenson for the vacant lightweight title coming up. In a couple of weeks, actually, on January 18th or 19th, I believe it is, he'll be taking on those two face off for the title that Sean Sherk had to vacate because he was found guilty of using steroids. Gabriel Gonzaga returns to the octagon as he takes on Fabricio Verdum. Fabricio Verdum made his debut also this year. Another debut from Pride against Andre Arlovsky and lost a decision back in April. And Gonzaga knocked out his teammate Mirko Krokop. What will he do to Fabricio Verdum? Fabricio Verdum has already beaten Gonzaga in the past. Can he do it again in the UFC? Then in February, I think if you're a true fan of mixed martial arts, you know the whole ordeal now between Randy Couture and the UFC. And the heavyweight title is also vacant now because Randy Couture turned down the fight for February and they stripped the belt off of him. Even though he broke away from UFC, Zuffa still recognized him as a champion. But after he declined the bout, they stripped him of it. So now we see Tim Sylvia taking on another guy who made his debut in 2007 against Heath Herring. Antonio Minotauro Nogueira will be fighting for the heavyweight title crown against Tim Sylvia in February. To tell you the truth, I think Nogueira's got this belt won. But again, what we've seen from this past year, I think anything can still happen, even though it is Tim Sylvia. And then we see Frank Mir come back. Frank Mir he was a dominating heavyweight fighter until he got injured in a car accident. Came back, and he had a couple disappointing fights, and lately he's doing pretty good, from what I hear, as he will take on the debuting former WWE champion, WWE superstar, NCAA college heavyweight wrestling champion 2 times, Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar made his debut in mixed martial arts this year, not in the UFC, as he beat up Min-Soo Kim in 49 seconds, I believe it was. Beat him in 49 seconds. UFC signed Brock Lesnar a couple pay-per-views back, and now it's announced Brock Lesnar will take on Frank Mir in February. Brock Lesnar looking to make a huge debut against a former heavyweight champion in Frank Mir. If he beats Frank Mir, I think Lesnar will show the world that he belongs in the UFC. And as I mentioned before, in March, I mentioned before how Dan Henderson's our last hope to see who can take the belt off of Anderson Silva, as he will unify the Pride middleweight title with the UFC middleweight title in March against Anderson Silva. And that's a fight for the ages right there. That is the best fight that I see so far in 2008. Forget Nogueira, Sylvia, Penn, Stevenson, Lesnar, Mir, Verdum, Gonzaga. You want to look at fight of the year so far? You look at Henderson Silva. That's an excellent fight. The styles are great. This is going to be an awesome fight in March when it comes. And that's all that we have so far for this. Look forward to in UFC 2008. And with just those fights and those just few cards that I mentioned, 2008 looks like it might be able to live up to the high bar that 2007 set for the UFC. But to see if UFC can top 2007 remains to be seen, because this year has been so phenomenal for UFC. They have exploded so much. This year with buying Pride, with the record-setting gates, all the title changes, all the changing of the guards in the UFC this year, all the upsets. UFC's year has been great, but who knows if 2008 will be better. If 2008 is better, well, 2009 be better. UFC keeps setting this bar high. You can only set the bar so high before you cannot reach it. And I think right now UFC has the bar set so high that 2008 may not be able to reach it. Still be a good year, don't get me wrong, but I don't think 2008 will live up to the year of 2007. Now, to tell you the truth, UFC this year, it was a great year. Excuse me about that there. I thought some of my lens. Anyways, UFC 2007, great year. 2008, maybe it'll be better. Now, as I told you on the first show, I told you that whenever I review a new DVD or read a new book, I will give a review of that DVD or book. Or a pay-per-view. Well, pay-per-view I could talk about is UFC 79 Nemesis. That night was the night we saw Vanderlei Silva debut against Chuck Liddell. And Chuck Liddell, we already said, beat up Vanderlei Silva. We saw George St. Pierre get the interim welterweight belt. It was supposed to be Matt Serra and Matt Hughes last Saturday, but Matt Serra got injured beginning of the month. And he is on the sidelines right now. So we'd have an interim welterweight title belt between George St. Pierre and Matt Hughes. And George St. Pierre did the unthinkable. Nobody would have thought that George St. Pierre would have submitted Matt Hughes. Matt Hughes, a ground fighter, was submitted by George St. Pierre. And George St. Pierre defended against Matt Hughes' takedowns so well. I don't think he can defend against Matt Hughes' takedowns any better. Matt Hughes and Josh Koscheck, both two great wrestlers that GSP fought this year, both great wrestlers, and GSP defended every single takedown. That says a lot about GSP, and I think Matt Serra is in trouble for his rematch against GSP when the time comes when they fight to unify those belts, since he was a real welterweight champion is. We saw Thierry Ramadou Sokaju, or whatever his name is, debut from Pride against Lyoto Machida. Lyoto Machida, kind of a disappointing year. He's a technical fighter. I get it, I'm kind of the guy that wants to see fights end. I don't want to see, it's okay if the guy has a fight that goes to a decision every once in a while. But since Lyoto Machida's been in the UFC, he's gone to every single decision. He finally ended a fight last Saturday night when he took Sokaju to the ground in the second round and demolished him. Sokaju coming in, having beat up great fighters around the world, was highly touted to probably beat Lyoto Machida and put up a fight. But boy, did Machida stomp all over him. And I think Machida is at the top of the ladder for the next light heavyweight title shot. But we all know that right now, the next challenger for the belt is Forrest Griffin. And that's another fight I looked forward to in 2008.